Hello students, we are going to pick up on Chapter 7, page 9. Let's take a closer look at example number 3. Solve the system of equations with matrices using a calculator. So notice how in example number 2, it's asking us to write the augmented matrix. In order to use the calculator, we will need to go ahead and translate this system of equations into an augmented matrix first. So in order to do that, all I'm doing for the augmented matrix is writing the coefficients. So notice here that the coefficient is 1, so I'll put a 1. Here, my coefficient will be a -1, so write a -1. The next coefficient here will be a 1 again, and I can just go ahead and kind of tell me that that's going to be my dashed line for my equal sign. So my equal sign here is going to give me my 8. So again, I'm going to have my second row now. So now I'm looking at my row 2, and I'm going to have 2 as a coefficient. I'm going to have a 3 as a coefficient of y. And it looks like that coefficient of z is now going to be a -1. And I have my coefficient here as a -2. Now, I'm going to be looking at my row 3. So for my row 3, I see my leading coefficient here is going to be a 3. The next one for my coefficient of y is going to be a -2. The coefficient of z is going to be a -9. And you can see that this entire row is going to be equal to a 9. So notice how what I did is I took all of the coefficients of x, y, and z and put it into my augmented matrix. And whatever my solutions were, let's say 8, -2, and 9, that's what goes on that last column, okay? All right, so now using my calculator is going to do all the work for me. So what I'm going to do is make sure that the calculator is on. Next, I'm going to go ahead and go to my matrix. So notice how here the matrix is blue. So I'm going to go to that second button. So it's blue, and then here the matrix is where that x to the -1 power. Now I want to make sure that I have the right dimensions of my matrix. So I want to make sure that I have the right dimensions of my augmented matrix. So here I want to make sure that I understand that it's going to be written as row by columns whenever I'm talking about the dimensions of a matrix. So here, this is going to be my row 1, this is going to be my row 2, and this is going to be my row 3. So I have 3 rows, and now I'm going to look at my columns here. So this is going to be my column 1, my column 2, my column 3, and my column 4. So I'm going to have 4 columns. So this matrix actually ends up being a 3 by 4 matrix. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up that calculator. So I definitely have a 3 by 4 matrix stored in matrix A. So I'm going to go over to edit. So once I'm went to matrix, I go to edit, and I'm going to press enter. And I'm going to go ahead and enter these values. So I have a 1, make sure you press enter, -1. So it's going to take me a minute, so I'm going to go ahead and just enter all of the values in there. So I just took a second and I went ahead and entered all of that data into my matrix. And now I'm going to go ahead and make sure that my matrix is now going to be in reduced echelon form. So I'm going to go ahead and quit out of here so I can go to the main screen. In order to do that, I'm going to have to go to second, quit, okay. Now from here, I want to go back to my matrix, and remember that you stored that matrix into matrix A, so second matrix. And now I see names, math, and edit. I'm going to go over to math, and I'm going to go all the way down, and I'm going to go to RREF. Notice how after 0 comes A, and A is ref parentheses. I want to make sure that I'm on B, which is RREF. So I'm going to press enter. And so what this does is it's telling the calculator, hey, what we want to do is we want to do a row reduce echelon form, RREF, row reduce echelon form. So now I have to call the matrix. So I'm going to go back to second matrix. Now I'm going to press enter. That'll give me my matrix A, and press enter again. So notice now here, this is my matrix in reduce row, in my row reduce echelon form. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this calculator screen onto my notes here. So I went ahead and copied that calculator matrix onto my sheet of notes. Now that I've copied that, remember that this is directly copied from the calculator, and it is now I have zeros and ones, which makes it really easy to solve this system of equations. Remember what we had here in our first rows is we had our x's. So this is going to represent our x's here. So notice how here my x's, I have 1, 0, 0. So this tells me that my x value is going to be equal to 4. Okay. The next thing that I see is I see my y's in that second column. So here I have my y's. So notice there's only 1 and there's 2 zeros. So this is going to tell me that my y value is going to equal to a -3. And the last thing that I'm going to have here is going to be my z values. So z values is going to be my column 3. And in my z column, I see a 1 in that last row. So here, this is telling me that my z value is going to equal to 1. Remember, we always want to write our solution as a triple ordered pair in alphabetical order, x, y, z. So in this case, it would be 4, -3, and 1 as my solution. And that is how I solve the system of equations with matrices using a calculator.